I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down. He should calm down.
I saw he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber! Water! Let's go, baby! Let's go! I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man. Are you kidding?
No, you won the fight.
OMG, I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. Hipsters here. Haters beware. Obviously, it's Mixed Combat Radio, now called MCR Net, till we get this fucking shit fixed. Oh, my God. This weekend's been awful. I don't want to even get into it. But for anyone wondering why you got a notification from a channel you did not subscribe to, technically, it's a long story. We're not going to get into it. I literally have so many migraines over the weekend from this. I might have developed an aneurysm. I don't know, but it was just a hectic weekend. Hopefully we'll get the name changed relatively soon. So I'm sorry about that. But anyways, yes, Mixed Combat Radio, MCR Net. Whatever the joke's going to be from Robert Hearns over there. But it should be a good show. Obviously, we're going to we're going to review, break down all of the weekend's action from Lomachenko Pedraza to Kell Brook fighting the stripper, all the fun stuff. And, of course, the news of the day, Eddie Hearn coming out and saying that the Wilder pay-per-view was absolutely terrible. I can't wait to see Eddie spin that one. Or can't wait to see his second cousin twice removed, a.k.a. Robbie Hearns, twist that one. But let me just shift it over to him. Mr. Hearns, how are you? I'm not going to play your intro because you just made the new one. So how you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's nice hearing it live on air instead of repeatedly, in iMovie, playing it back, trying to get it all right. But I hope people like the intro. Like Matt said, reviewing of the Loma fight, people are questioning, is he Mr. Unstoppable and this, that, and the other? Did he take punishment? Was it a difficult fight? Should it have been that bad? But obviously me and Matt will talk about that. Eddie's comments regarding the pay-per-view. There's also some other little things like Wilder wanting to come into the rematch at 245 pounds. Maybe we could talk about that. There's plenty of other stuff just to... plenty of stuff to sort of get into. So, Matt, take it away. Where do you want to start?
Obviously, let's try to get through this weekend's action as quickly as possible. Because, except for a couple notable things, everything was run-of-the-mill. Like, everything was pretty predictable, and it kind of turned out the way it did. Or it was kind of anticlimactic. Like, the Loma-Pedraza fight was a little bit anticlimactic in some way. We expected more from Loma, and it was more competitive than we thought. Or Kell Brook. Obviously, we can get to that in a bit. Trying to be a little more anticlimactic than we thought. So let's try to run through that as quickly as possible. Let's start with the ESPN card, since that was the marquee card of the weekend. Obviously, the ratings have come out. It did 1.4 meter rating, which probably roughly come out to like 1.8 million viewers, either peak or average. I forget whether that meter rating was the peak or was the average. I forget. Apologies. Hashtag Matt Stats. But let's get to the Lomachenko-Pedraza fight itself. I thought Lomachenko did well in this fight. I thought Pedraza maybe a little bit overperformed, not only in this fight, but his last couple fights, like with Ray Beltran. Maybe we've underrated Pedraza in some fashion. I said this on the other show, that Loma, like Usyk, like other guys in that sort of stable, struggle when they face fellow southpaws. The way they turn and slip off the center line and try to circle out to reestablish distance and land their combinations it doesn't really work with the fellow southpaw because you're open to that strong left hand of your opponent. So that's why Loma was more in the pocket, more rolling with shots with his guard than usual. I think just the optics of that made him look a little bit human in a sense when we've expected a lot from Loma recently. But he was rather dominant in the fight still. I thought he obviously outboxed Pedraza easily throughout the 12 rounds. I maybe gave Pedraza 3 rounds, somewhere around that. And I think it's one of those fights where we have come to expect so much from Lomachenko that if he does not meet a certain standard, everything is just less than. And I think this was one of those performances. The Linares fight was close to that, but we sort of gave him a pass because he first fight up in the weight class. Linares has much more credibility in the weight class than Jose Pedraza does. That's just the God honest truth. I think maybe our expectations of Lomachenko needs to maybe come down to earth a little bit because he isn't going to be dominating and destroying everyone and Lomachenko everyone. The Rigo fight has some specific context to it. We cannot avoid that, even in hindsight. We have to address it. The Sosa fight, others that we can sort of pinpoint as like the Lomachenko hype train started from. Can that happen at 135? Probably not. These guys are a little bit bigger, a little bit better, and that makes a world difference. Rob, your thoughts?
Yeah, like I said, when I came in with my intro, it was just sort of a thing I noticed, like a little bit of a theme going on Twitter. A lot of people's opinions go, Loma, is he this Mr. Invincible that he's been made out to be, this, pound for pound #1 great fighter. But yeah, like you say, I think he pretty much dominated, maybe not in the fashion that he usually does, but sometimes you just meet these tougher guys and they just put up that bit of a test. We've seen plenty of fights where a guy's been a favorite and he's just the opponent stuck around and been, a tough guy to maybe get rid of. And, it just, 11th round, Loma just cranked it right up. I thought he just suddenly burst into scene as if like everything kind of slotted into place. Obviously, he's coming off the injury, the surgery, and I think Andre Ward said, "Mate, I've had shoulder injuries, and maybe it's a sort of a 12-month thing. Maybe it's a couple of fights before you really feel that you can let that right hand go or that left hand go, depending on obviously which shoulder." But he said, it could just take that little bit of time and throw in some shots that confidence is there to just let it go, like, before the injury. So, like I say, people are like, what? Wait, Pedraza didn't quit? What's going on? Oh, Loma's not as good as we thought. And he's like, you're not going to make every single fighter quit and not get up off the stool, coming out to whatever round. So, he's a unified champion. He'd done it easily. I think it was just maybe a solid, tough opponent that made it that little bit more difficult than he's been used to recently. But like you say, Matt, you can't really give Pedraza too many rounds in that whole fight. So, on to the next one. And I think Pedraza says he's a lot better than Gervonta. I don't know if that's shade or just an honest view, but obviously that's a little bit of going into what could be a potentially future fight. We've had an insight with a guy that's fought both of them. So.
Gervonta needs to first A, get active, and then B, actually be in the weight class that these two guys are in, because he's currently at 130, not 135. Also, to address the injury, I've had that same surgery, like that same exact surgery. I got it in football back in high school. That shit took me forever to come back from. Like, it did take me 12 months to come back. And obviously, I'm not a world-class athlete like Lomachenko, so it should take him shorter than me, but just for reference, like, I understand that injury is a debilitating injury, especially from an athletic standpoint. And it, not only from a, like, structural standpoint in the shoulder, like, your shoulder would never be the same after that surgery, after all those injuries. Just trust me on that. But on top of that, it's the trust in it. Like you said, I think you sort of alluded to, like, having the willingness to actually throw that, injured arm or that post-surgery arm with all, the intent. That's hard to do, especially in your first sort of foray back into action, in a sense.
I think we saw it with Jared Hurd a little bit, against Wellborn. Yes. And once he did kind of I don't know, settle into it a little bit and throw those body shots. I mean, that was a matter of time. You could see they were really sinking in and hurting. Obviously, the size difference, but I felt there was a little bit of tension in Hurd as well going into, and he's obviously had. I don't know if it's the same surgery, but it's still that shoulder. Shoulders are, I don't know, especially for a boxer, but even like cyclists when they do collarbones or shoulders, that's a long time out, and to have weight on it, it's restrictive.
The way my orthopedic doctor explained to me is that your shoulder is 360-degree axis, right? Like it can move 360 degrees. Your knee, for example, even though if you blow out your knee, that takes a while, but your knee can only move really one way. That knee joint's built for one direction. Your elbow, your shoulder, certain joints that are built for multi-directional use, it takes a lot to bounce back from those injuries if they are extensive. I believe Jared Hurd's was even more extensive, I want to say. I could be wrong about that, which explains his sort of, his desire to face an opponent that was far lesser than him, unlike a Lomachenko who wanted, was willing to take unification off that injury. I think his surgery is more arthroscopic. I think Jared Hurd was way more invasive. Could be wrong about that. But to digress from that, any last points on Loma Pedraza? I think we said most of what we need to.
No, I just wonder what we're going to get going forward with Loma, next fight.
What I heard? I heard Verdejo, and that'd be really sad if that's the case.
I mean, it's just outside of if Tank was to make the division or something. I think this is where we're going to see Loma come under, well, not fault, but it's just what other guys are there? Obviously, there's Mikey, but he's up at 147, and Loma definitely said in an interview 147 ain't happening anytime soon for him, if at all.
He's going to run into the same issue that Triple G did when he was the regular champion in the midweight division for a while. Terrence Crawford right now, 147 in a way. When you're on a side of the block that has a smaller stable in that division, you have less options. And even though all signs point to these entities wanting to work together more so now, Steven Espinoza coming out and saying that he's willing to work with DAZN, etc., hopefully the barriers do sort of crumble a little bit when it comes to these networks working with each other, these apps working with each other, these promoters working with each other. I just see Tank Davis being a future fight. I think Mikey is a much more realistic fight in the next 12 to 18 months, for example. Gervonta Davis is another 2 or 3 years, at least, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, you say about the willingness to work together, they still have to work together. So I think some of these are going to take a long time to sort of pan out with negotiations back and forth. Like one side will want it on pay-per-view and the other side, no, we want it on pay-per-view. No, we're the A side. No, we're the A side. As much as they might be willing to do it, it's still got to get.
It's still a business. It's still a business at the end of the day, and everyone wants to make their check and make their dollars. And I don't blame them. It is prize fighting. And quickly, remember, everyone listening right now, smash like button, share the show, subscribe. If you listen on podcasts, drop that 5-star review on iTunes. And also, call in, give Rob some shit, because you know he's going to be defending his cousin Eddie here in a minute about this terrible, terrible quote from him. God damn. But shout out to Eddie, man. Greatest promoter in the game. 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. If you're international, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get a free international permanent call-in link. Rob?
No, saying if you don't want me to defend Eddie,
save it, Rob. Save the defense. We're gonna get to it in a bit.
No, I'm just saying. I've actually tagged Eddie in our tweet that the show's going live at 9 for us here in the UK. So Eddie,
he hasn't called in yet. So Eddie, call in 323-870-4051. I know you got the big bucks. You can just call in. You call in TBV all the time, my other show, so you can do it. Otherwise, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get that free international permanent call-in link, Eddie, if you want to. And
maybe make my life easier and not have to defend you. Or not that I have to, it is what it is.
Save it, Rob. We're going to get to it. We still have tons of fights to get to.
Yeah. Fights.
Just a little teaser. Okay, let's get to the saddest story of the weekend. Hold on, I need to get my sad music out. God damn it. Isaac Dogboe, guys. Man. I don't know where to start. Neho. Isaac Dogboe losing by unanimous decision to Emanuel Navarrete. God damn it. Damn it, Dogboe. We had all of our hopes and dreams in you, and you let us down. But beside the point, this was a fun fight. Like, I watched it a few times now, and it's a pretty fun fight. Just the limitations of Dogboe is just so obvious. You know, his reluctance to use a jab is so aggravating. Like, he may have thrown 5 jabs in that entire fight. And I might be generous with that, right?
Hashtag Matt Stat Punch Stat.
Like, I'm just saying, like, the guy was so, you can tell he was so hyped up on his power, on himself. In that first round, he was slipping shots, landing them. But the second Emanuel Navarrete felt, okay, I can take these shots, I can start walking this guy down. I'm the bigger guy, and I'm probably going to hit him harder. And he did. And Dogboe's lack of fundamental footwork, lack of lateral footwork in a way, because he's really good at coming in and out, darting in and out, but laterally he struggled at. That's why he kept getting caught with left and right hooks from Emanuel Navarrete on his exits, because he wasn't really fundamental in how he did it. He had his hands down. He would retreat backwards too much and then try to go side to side instead of just like that one half step back and then quickly side to side. Just, again, fundamentals that you can sort of pick up in any real gym. And the fact that he's been sparring his dad, his uncle, his brother, and his cousins, and did not pay for a single sparring partner is just a major concern. You are a former Olympian. You were a champion. Now you're not. You need to step it up. Maybe move to a legit world-class gym. I think he lives in the UK. There's plenty of gyms out there in the UK for him to go in to get great sparring, great training, great coaching, and at his weight class. There's a ton of UK guys in that like 118 to 126, 130 range that he could spar with, he could get a lot of work with, and he's not. He's sparring his fucking uncle. This is Floyd Mayweather sparring with Floyd Sr. and Roger Mayweather. Imagine that happening. It's just ridiculous. And not to take away from Emanuel Navarrete, because, again, I thought he definitely is a legit guy in this division. Shout out to Zanford Promotions, who've, in this year, brought up Munguia, Jose Uzcategui, Gilberto Ramirez, obviously, in the past couple years. Zanford Promotions, obviously, finding a lot of gems out in Mexico right now. Emanuel Navarrete is one of them. Good jab, great left hook, great power. Sloppy at times, overzealous at times, obviously. But this fight was a little bit sloppy at times. This was a little bit of a slugfest at times. So I forgive a guy that was still using a jab, still using clear fundamentals more so than his opponent.
Yeah, it was disappointing. I think for me, like, Dogboe obviously kind of burst on the scene in the great fight with Magdaleno. Yep. So I don't know what this says about Magdaleno now, or whether Dogboe really was just sort of took his eye off the ball and riding the crest of a wave. And, he's done a ton of interviews and he's sort of pushed himself as like, this sort of semi sort of star. And he's been enjoying the ride, but as he neglected, in the gym, as he neglected taking things seriously. I think he said he underestimated Navarrete. And is that just an afterthought, or is it legit? Did he really not put the work in and expecting a victory? But I don't know. Like you say, we've been and yourself more so, like, really bigging Dogboe up and just let down. I don't know, but sad, man, sad.
Well, with anything with life, obviously there's usually not like one single cause of an issue. There's, multiple causes, multiple factors into a situation. So with this fight, I would say it's it's a multi-factor situation. I think Dogboe obviously bought into his own hype. Like, that, it was quite apparent in this entire build-up, I would say. And the amount of press he was doing, the amount of the way he was carrying himself. You can tell he you look at, let's say, the build-up, the run-up to his Magdaleno fight compared to this, it's a 180-degree difference. It just is. On top of that, I do think we absolutely underrated and gave no credit to Emanuel Navarrete just because we did not know him, which happens all the time in the sport. Again, Jaime Munguia is a guy that we did not know 12 months ago, and now he is a world champion and a legit top 5 guy in his division that's on his way to being the second guy in Golden Boy stable in terms of drawing power. Things change rather quickly in this sport, especially from guys from Mexico. That we just have a long history of that. And again, I would say, to address maybe the point about Magdaleno being overrated, I wouldn't say that. Magdaleno's win over Nonito Donaire is still highly impressive, how easily he outboxed him in that way. Dogboe is one of those guys where if he can hurt you, his style is very hard to deal with. If you can take his shots, you can break him down. You can outwork him. You can outbox him. Because he's not a guy that's throwing in combinations. He's not a guy that's working off the jab. He's not a guy that's thinking about boxing first. That's how Emanuel Navarrete beat him, is because he was clearly able to take all of the punishment from Dogboe and did not affect him at all.
So do we maybe think Magdaleno did the same thing off the back of Donaire? Maybe sort of was quite proud of himself in that fact and took his eye off the ball, and then that's how the Dogboe loss come around. I don't know, but no. I just think sometimes mindset is like such a major factor from when you get like just a good boxer to like the world or the elite, the special fighters. They've got that mindset of, fully, committed to camp, fully commit, in all areas of the, of the sport and how they go about it. I don't know if that separates the good from the great or whatever, but I don't know. I just sort of I'm not trying to question Magdaleno and put him under the spotlight. It's kind of
no. It's completely fine. I think when you have a division that is just not that well known, like the best guy in the division is Ray Vargas, and nobody talks about him. Like nobody. And also the divisions was very young. Dogboe, Magdaleno, Ray Vargas, Daniel Roman. All those guys are rather young. Emanuel Navarrete is all these guys are young fighters that we are just now knowing. So we don't have a firm idea of where they place in the division, where the hierarchy is. So I wouldn't say like Magdaleno's overrated. I wouldn't say Dogboe's overrated. I would just say the division's young. We don't really know what the top 10 looks like yet, and we are seeing it shape out in front of us. So clearly Dogboe is top 10. Clearly Magdaleno is top 10. Clearly Emanuel is top 10. So I think that is the underlying consensus we should at least, bounce back to when we talk about, these guys. All these guys are still top 10 fighters. We just don't know which one's really the best guy in the division, which guy's the top 3, top 5. That is still a mystery.
Depending on people moving up or whatever, these guys are probably going to fight each other, however many times, and they'll probably beat each other. It'll just be a round robin with these bouts. But I don't know. But again, we'll just see how it pans out. But yeah, real shame about Dogboe. We obviously thought he was sort of the goods, but I guess focus, get your head down, and I'm sure he'll come again and do well again. But yeah, shame.
Fugati making a great point, saying all these dudes getting crushed when Inoue moves up. Yeah, that's probably true. Well, if he moves up, and if that World Boxing Super Series tournament ever finishes, R.I.P. Moving on to R.I.P. Mason Menard. God damn, Teofimo Lopez, man. Shout out to Doomy, good old Doomy over in the Boxing Voice, who's always been very, very high on Teofimo Lopez. And has always told us that this guy's the real deal. And because it's Doomy, we just laugh it off and go, okay, Doomy. But you know what? To give him his credit, because I know he's probably listening right now or later. You're right. Teofimo, he's a real fucking deal. Like, he is easily a top 15 guy in the division. And I want him to fight, a Ricky Burns. I want to fight a Ray Beltran. I want to fight one of those guys and then fight a Loma. And then fight a Richard Comey. That needs to happen. This guy's obviously skilled enough, talented enough, has the power enough to hang with that top tier of the division. He may not win. He may not beat the very, very top of that division, but he is clearly of that level. I've heard even a Pedraza fight be brought up with Teofimo Lopez or Felix Verdejo. Any of those names, he needs to start fighting. He needs to start moving up rapidly in this division because he is clearly an extreme talent.
Yeah, that was brutal. It was like he was just hitting with the, like some Sub-Zero on Mortal Kombat, just froze him.
Fatality, man.
Finish him, and that was he did. That was brutal. I maybe would like to see that he was, see that the guy's okay before he starts doing backflips on top of him and shit. But I'm not sure, On
my thing was
he's an entertainer. He's that kind of guy, but maybe just is he all right before I completely clown him and shit.
Well, quickly, it's like he wasn't that far away. Like he didn't go to like the opposite side of the ring. Like it was like right next to him.
Yeah,
like he almost jumped on top of him. Like that was the concern.
Yeah, there was like one little Fortnite dance and then the backflip and something else, and it's almost, I don't know. I don't want to say disrespectful, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, obviously, people will take it as disrespectful, and that's, I think, what he kind of intends to do. Like he wants to make a reaction from people.
Yeah.
And quickly, Hassan in the chat saying Lopez versus Luke Campbell. Ooh, I like that. See, like all these fights, I think are actually like realistic options for Teofimo Lopez in terms of competition level, like competitiveness. Like he is deserving of these guys next. What he did to Mason Menard has not been replicated by Ray Beltran or Devin Haney. Give Teofimo his shot. Goddamn.
I don't know. Maybe pump the brakes just a wee bit on maybe Luke Campbell and stuff. These guys are I don't know. Has he really been in with a boxer? I don't know. I think Luke Campbell's very technically sound and very.
What about Ricky Burns? A guy that's more, obviously.
That would be a fun fight. I think that would be a real fun fight. So I don't know. Yeah, it's he's obviously the goods, and he's clearly got to be on the fast track. There's no point just keep giving him the Mason Menards of this world. He's got to step it up each and every time now until he reaches the top, and I expect him to do it at some point because he's got the power. He seems he's got the charisma, that wow factor. He's got the charisma. He talks well,
and he's saying
that the star needs.
Excuse me, and he's saying that he wants to move up quickly. Like he's not saying I'm taking my time. I'm gonna listen to my promoter. He's saying no, give me Loma. When
I think Bob said he said but he'd fight him next Saturday. He'd fight Loma next Saturday. And I know promoters say this shit, but in some cases you think, yeah, shit, I think he would. So
yes, Teofimo, if they gave him the option to fight Loma next week, he would absolutely take it. The guy is a little bit unhinged in that way, in a good way, like where you want your fighter to be unhinged a little bit, in a sense. Teofimo has the right level of unhingedness.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think many fighters are hinged. I just, they're actually fighters. They actually want to get in the ring and punch each other in the face. I think there's an element of unhinged in all of them, but maybe he's more unhinged than you would let it on.
Yo, it's funny because no one ever says oh yeah, he's hinged. That's but unhinged is a term that everyone uses, but we don't use the opposite of it. Just weird. Just anyways, digressing from that.
English language.
Yeah, rabbit hole of the English language right there.
Yeah. Come on, keep it hinged now. Let's stay on track.
Moving on. Shout out to the Top Rank card for at least putting on some high level boxing this weekend. Moving on to the Matchroom card. Rob, you talk about this card because they didn't have Josh Kelly on it, so I was kind of pissed.
I'm going to be wearing my Team Machine Anthony Fowler.
He was the only highlight of the entire card. I hope you know. He's really the only person I want to talk about in this entire event.
Yeah, I mean, he faced a guy. I think he was on short notice, I know, but he was number 40. I think 28 positions above him on BoxRec. Admittedly, I mean, I don't know how much we use BoxRec in terms of rankings, but the guy was number 40 in the world. Now Fowler absolutely crushed him, body shot in the first round, and that's jumped Fowler up to number 28 in the world according to BoxRec. So, moving quite quickly now, and I think he hasn't come into the professional ranks at a young age, so it's kind of got to happen now. But I really see he's working really well with Caldwell. I think he's 100% committed to David Caldwell. He's just willing to learn constantly. But you've got to bear in mind, he's sparring Liam Smith. He's sparring Liam Williams. Real good quality sparring. And then he's getting in with these guys that he's just destroying. And they're lining up a Scott Fitzgerald fight. And then the winner of that will take on the winner of Ted Cheeseman and whoever he fights. And Ted Cheeseman's talking a lot of crap to Fowler, and it's all back and forth at the moment. So it's going to be one, especially for obviously the British fans, because that'll be for the British title. But yeah, I think Fowler beats them both now, Fitzgerald, and I think he beats Cheeseman now. I think he's too big for the weight. He's massive for the weight. Hits very hard, and I think if someone wants to stand and fight Fowler, that's when we're going to see the best of him. And I think they will come off second place if they want to trade up with Fowler. Cheeseman is quite skilled fighter, good combinations, this, that, and the other, but I don't know if he can trouble Fowler too much. I know me, I'm super high on Fowler, but
no, you should be. No, I mean I'll jump in. Like, you definitely should be high on Fowler. To the point where I'm to the point where, like, the Fitzgerald fight, the Cheeseman fight, like, they're so obvious in my opinion about who wins it. Like, I almost don't want to see it. Like, I almost want Fowler just to skip that level and just go to the next level. I understand not to, because he's only 8-0, like now 9-0. So, like, I understand. Give it, wait till 11-0 for him to fight. Let me throw out some names. Maybe like maybe a Saddam Ali. They bring Saddam Ali back up. Something like that. A Tony Harrison. Somebody that's going to give you some work. That's some name that's fought some people. You want to maybe an Ishe Smith that's old. That's obviously longer in the tooth. Start giving him relevant names in the division, because, like you said, he's entered the pros at an older age. And clearly, almost like Teofimo Lopez, he is so much better than this level of competition that it's getting to the point where I don't want to see it anymore, because it's too obvious, it's too much of a blowout, and it's no longer interesting to me in some level.
Well, bear in mind, he was supposed to face Zafira, who Brook fought on the same card. And I think David Caldwell brought that up in the interview. He said, look, it was spoken about before the fight with Brook got made that we were going to face Zafira, maybe for the Commonwealth title. But
Forgotti bringing up what I was just thinking. Kell Brook versus Anthony Fowler. Robbie, thoughts?
Oh, wow.
Not that it would happen, because obviously there's no way Eddie makes that fight. But in terms of like how the fight actually transpires, Fowler can win that, right? Like, Kell Brook is so... Obviously, we're going to get to the Kell Brook fight itself, but like, Kell Brook is damaged goods in some form or fashion, I believe. Fowler is, while older probably in terms of, actual literal years than Kell Brook, is much younger in boxing years than Kell Brook.
Yeah, I mean, Fowler, I'm not particularly sure on Brook's amateur background, but Fowler had he's had a long amateur career. He's done really well in the amateurs. I think it's around 300 fights. I'm not sure, but it's a good amateur background. And
I'm talking about pro career, by the way, very quickly. Like pro boxing years is different.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Brook, Fowler, Fugati with the killer question. I think he can definitely give Brooks a good work. And like you say, I think he could beat him. I mean, we saw, I don't know if we're going to jump into the Brook stuff or we're going to do the other rest of the card.
We can jump into that.
Because we saw Zafira putting hands on, we saw him putting hands on Brook. And at times, whether it's, not flashbacks as such, but the concern around those eye sockets and what's been before, he was shelling out, wanting to go backwards onto the ropes and just getting hit too clean. And, like I say, Fowler's a big dude at that weight, but I don't know. That's maybe a big jump, to do it now, but and like we say, it's not going to happen anyway. But yeah, I mean, Fowler just, 2019, year of the machine. Hashtag Team Machine.
Yes, but Kell Brook, Michael Zerafa. What can we say about this? I mean, Kell Brook, like, he just looks slower, looked less athletic, looks just hittable in every form and fashion. Like, he seemed limited. I have, like, zero positives to say about Kell Brook in this fight. This should have been an opponent that he styled on in a way, and he didn't. You know, Kell Brook doesn't beat anyone in the top 5 of 147 or 154 at this point.
I think I kind of get the reason behind it, but I have no clue why he weighed in at 150. You're either a 154 or you're going to fight at 147. I guess if he's thinking that Amir Khan is the possible next fight, in some way, it's some kind of statement that going off the back of this camp, getting down to 150, and then Brook fight gets the Khan fight gets made. He's only got the 3 pounds or so to lose, rather than I fought at 154 and then rehydrated. Then he's got to cut all that to get to 147. So I kind of get that point. But this was an eliminator for the Herd, for Herd's mandatory. So, and he's saying that if Khan doesn't want the fight, I'm going after another big fight. And this was, like I say, mandatory for Herd. So come in at 154 then and rehydrate and be whatever you're going to be as a 154 pounder. I think whether Khan's played him around a bit and it's sort of brought this upon him that I need to be somewhere nearer the 147 than coming off a fight at 154. And that, but yeah, I can't massively defend it. Like I say, because of this coming in at 150, we've only seen Kell Brook at 154 once, and it was a second round knockout of Lomachenko, where he looked like not punch perfect, but he looked sharp. He looked accurate and on his thing, But I felt he was quite rusty. I think he looked like his timing was off. I don't know, but he was saying what a wonderful camp this was, and if you could have seen what I'd done in camp, you would be to then gauge it against this performance. You wouldn't believe it, but I know fighters say what they're going to say. But
quickly, the only thing I have to say to this is SO in the chat saying, "Can y'all explain what happened to Kell Brook's head movement and slow legs? Is this what a shot fighter looks like?" Yes, that's partially what a shot fighter looks like. Another thing would be like punch durability. Like when you see guys start getting affected by shots that back in the day they wouldn't be affected by, that's another sign of a shot fighter. And I would argue that Kell Brook partially did look like that a little bit against Zerafa. Zerafa's punches, I wouldn't say were hurting Kell Brook, but they were bothering him. Like you can tell, like he wasn't comfortable in there. It's. Gary in the chat, I know he's on the line. We're going to get to him. Obviously, he's talking about he just beat up a middleweight. Look, Zerafa, can you name one guy he's beat? Anyone? We know him for losing to Peter Quillen and being a male stripper. That is literally what Michael Zerafa is known for in pro boxing. Kell Brook, the version of Kell Brook that fought Sean Porter, he would have styled on Michael Zerafa. He would have. And that's clearly not the version we have now. And, I have somebody else in the chat say, like, why is it so, like, early in his career, like, that he looks this way? Some fighters change, like, after a certain fight or two. Like, for some fighters, they can take a lot more punishment. A lot of that is due to genetics in some form or fashion with CTE, with brain damage, how much your body can actually take. Everyone is different. That's why some fighters you hear about get a concussion or get knocked out, and you never see them again. Not because they're like a Patrick Colon status where they're a vegetative state, but they just can't take the punishment anymore. Their body literally changed because of that damage. Kell Brook went through Triple G and Earl Spence back to back. That type of punishment, again, back-to-back, it's really not seen at the highest level that often. The closest to it of recent memory that I can think of, like even maybe a Wilder this year. Like Wilder took a really hard fight with Ortiz, a lot of punishment there. Had some punishment in the Tyson Fury fight, but even that is not a obvious 1-to-1 comparison with what Kell Brook went through. So again, that is unheard of in some way in at least the last 20, 30 years of boxing, where a guy took that much punishment back to back.
And this is 9 months since the Lomachenko fight as well. That's it's a long layoff, really. And I know he's had a trainer change and things like that, but yeah, I don't think that equates to the performance. I think
he's just a different fighter.
He's going to sharpen up, but
he's just a different fighter.
Between weight like this, but to me, you can have your thoughts on Khan and you can have your thoughts on Brook. So, are they both shot fighters? I think obviously Khan's still got his speed, still got his fast hands and whatever, but Samuel Vargas clips him and he's on his back. So I think just make the fight, these two guys. If there's interest in it, I think there is. It seems to be a lot of talk still about it. I know Kell Brook, Amir Khan someone posted a video of him watching Kell Brook and he kept looking back at the camera as if to say, what the hell is this? And someone was saying maybe Kell's performance is something that will help make the Khan fight, because he did look that bad. But at the end of the fight, I've never seen a corner that have just won a fight look almost so dejected. So it wasn't the best. Obviously we had Jono Carroll on there and Frenoir. That was I've never seen Jono Carroll in any other type of fight than what he was in. He's always in a war. He's always cut up. He's always bruised up. There's always blood somewhere on the. And
by the way, for anyone listening, that fight was scored a draw. I know Rob didn't say who won the fight because no one won the fight.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it was a draw. It looks like Jono Carroll and Tevin Farmer not likely now. Although Eddie mentioned something like maybe he can fight Carroll and then Farmer can fight Frenoir. But again, just Carroll just too easy to hit. At one point I thought, he's winning rounds quite nicely, and then he just started abandoning defense. It just turned into a huge tear up. And like I say, that seems to be the common theme with Jono Carroll fights. He's just always in some kind of a war. But yeah, it was kind of a fun fight to watch. It was a lot of back and forth and trading, but kind of the moment might have slipped him by for the Farmer fight. So
agreed. I echo everything you said. Shout out to Kid Galahad putting on another shit performance as well.
You're a hater, man. You're a hater.
That was a bad fight, man. Like,
well, like I say, he was on the DAZN card, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, this is hard to watch, but technically, he's like, I don't know. I could sort of appreciate his skill, but it's not like oh wow.
He's not the next guy.
No, I don't think no.
He's gonna be a perennial top 15 guy when for as long as his run is. And whenever he does decide to actually face a real opponent, he will lose, in my opinion.
And I don't know what it is. Whenever I see Galahad, it looks like he's got just like huge round sparring gloves on. They look like massive, like almost like he's got two soccer balls on his. I don't know what it is. Whether it's the brand and the manufacturer, and they're like just white.
No,
what?
I agree.
It looks like he's got two balloons on his hand. Like, how the fuck are you going to knock someone out with that? I don't know. It always looks. They look huge.
And he's just basic, like in Khalid Yaffe, like he has that issue as well in a sense. Like he's a little bit slow at times, a little bit methodical at times, and he throws the same combinations over and over again. It's at some point when you're facing the same level of opponents and it's not the greatest level of opponents, and you put on the same lackluster performance, eventually you are just a lackluster fighter. Like that becomes your stick. Like Lawrence Okoli. Obviously very early in his career now has that stigma of being just a boring fighter. He fought the same level of opponents over and over and put on the same dreadful performance. eventually that becomes your characteristic, unfortunately. Maurice Hooker had that forever, for God's sake, until the last couple fights he's had. It takes a lot to change how people perceive you as a fighter, whether you're boring, whether you're not. And right now, Kid Galahad, he has a big, fat, boring asterisk next to his name, where I look at bout sheets and I see his name, I'm like, yep, I can skip that one.
No, I understand. Like I say, the DAZN card fight. A lot of people are like, Jesus, what's after this one? Who's next and stuff like that. So, yeah, I guess everyone's not going to be super mega crowd pleasing and that. But he's getting the job done, so he keeps winning at the moment. But
we can move on. We can move on. We talked about the only man that was important on the card, Anthony Fowler, your man. To talk about something more important, the end of HBO. Yes. The end of HBO. I gotta say, Rob, I didn't watch this card live. I did not record it. I had to go find the fights individually on YouTube. And then I found, obviously, all the montage, like the HBO, like Demise montage, right? I found that separate. So my viewing experience of the last HBO card was equal to how many people were actually at the fight itself, aka non-existent. And
very quick, you've done more than I did to do with this HBO card. Then,
oh, have you watched anything?
I didn't watch any of it.
You didn't watch?
I saw how they was it the start of the show. They showed like almost like a history montage.
Did you see the full version of it though, like the 30-minute version?
Oh no, not 30 minutes. It may well have been a 30-minute video, but I might not have watched it all.
I'll send you a link. It's actually pretty good. Like I gotta admit, like they could have just shown that, and I would have been good. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't need the fights that would just stay busy, tune up fights for Cecilia Brækhus, Juan Francisco Estrada, and Clarissa Shields. I honestly didn't need this.
I just wish they'd maybe somehow put together a card was like, we're going out with a bang. Thank you, HBO. Out with a bang, but it went out with like I don't know, a little trickle of something.
Like this is the equivalent of taking your dog out back and like trying to shoot it, like Old Yeller status, but instead of shooting it, you take like a wooden spoon, right? Like, and that's your method of kill, right? Like that's how like drawn out and depressing this entire 6 months have been for HBO.
Repeated blows with a wooden spoon.
Like, it is so horrendous how HBO has ended. Like, when I saw Jim Lampley and Roy Jones crying at the whole montage, right, I was wondering if, like, man, like, obviously this has been a big part of their lives, but they must realize, like, this is pathetic. They must look around, and it's 3 people in the stands.
That's why they were crying. Maybe that's why.
I don't...
I don't know. Like, really? Fuck.
Yo, and it's funny, like, Max Kellerman, like, lost his voice. So, like, he was like, and HBO is, like, the greatest thing ever. And you have Jim Lampley, and it's so sad. And, like, Roy Jones is off camera. Like, he can't even be on camera anymore. He's crying. Like, and there is literally 3 people in the stands. It was so sad, man.
And to think what HBO was, like, what a part of boxing, basically boxing history it was to, I don't know, it's a shame, sad.
Fugatti in the chat. Fugatti, call in 323-870-4051 saying, how can people hate on HBO? Man, I grew up on HBO Fight Nights. Look, I think we all did in some form or fashion, especially U.S. people. Obviously, UK excluded. But I, for one, am only talking about me. Other people have their own opinions, right, and their own feelings about HBO boxing. But me, myself, I have never enjoyed the production. I've never really enjoyed the commentary. And the last, 5+ years, they've had the inferior product. So, well, yes, we can talk about the 45 years of HBO history and how grand it was. Recent memory, it wasn't grand. It wasn't the great thing that it used to be. So if we have a dinosaur in our industry that's holding up the sport, yes, get it the F out of here. I don't want it. Move on. I'm glad we have DAZN, we have Fox, we have ESPN now, full blown. with boxing instead of just the old fight night events they used to do. Because it is better for the sport. Change is always inherently better, in my opinion. Innovation's always better. And HBO was holding up the sport. It was a dinosaur. Potential Lunatics, I remember watching Prince and Nassim on HBO as a kid. Salute to that, because I do as well. I was like 6 years old watching Prince and Nassim fights, man. Shout out to the Prince. But, again, I was 6 years old when that shit happened. Like, things have changed. Like, HBO wasn't still running the second golden age of heavyweight boxing. It didn't have the Sugar Ray Leonards. It didn't have all this. It was just different.
Because, like, even the Canelo Golovkin pay-per-view, wasn't there like an hour or an hour and a half in between?
Yeah, like it.
It's like, put some fights on, some young talent. I don't know. I know they're probably doing a lot of main event stuff, but Jesus, hour and a half or whatever it was, hour and 20 minutes. That's rough. See some action. People have paid like $80. You know what I mean?
I agree. And Hassan in the chat saying HBO fell off because of Vlad. I definitely disagree with that heavily. Vlad wasn't really an HBO fighter that much. He wasn't a main investment of them at any point in time. To go down a little rabbit hole, Rob, because why not? It's a rabbit hole. It's Monday. Fuck it, right?
Yeah.
The fights were kind of boring this weekend, so we can talk about rabbit hole shit.
Let's unhinge.
Let's not be hinged.
Yeah.
I forget if it was Kurt Emhoff of Boxing Esquire podcast or the Aficionados podcast guys. I forget who said it, but somebody alluded to the idea that Andre Ward was the death nail for boxing at HBO. That HBO post-Pacquiao wanted to center their product around Canelo, who they did, obviously, and that was successful, and Andre Ward. Andre Ward and obviously Kovalev failing at the box office on pay-per-view, and Andre Ward retiring post those fights was their second big piece failing. And Peter Nelson, allegedly, per this person, who I forget who it was, but I love the conspiracy theory, Peter Nelson believed that, again, Canelo and Andre Ward were going to be the centerpieces of HBO boxing for the next 10 years. And that failed. Canelo is obviously, at some point recently, it was sort of known that he was planning on leaving HBO in some form or fashion. And so Ward, in some way, bankrupting Sergey Kovalev, B, HBO boxing, and C, Rock Nation in some form or fashion, was a big deficit. And, again, the death nail to HBO boxing, along with Miguel Cotto's huge deal and him sort of failing on HBO in his sort of the twilight of his career. I don't know, again, how much weight that holds, because obviously HBO has been falling off long before that move by Andre Ward, long before Canelo moved back to HBO. So, again, it's not the root cause of the issue, but was it the final nail in the coffin? Potentially.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a bit harsh to put it on Ward's shoulders when,
Well, it's not necessarily that, like, Ward, wanted HBO to end, but it's the fact that his pay-per-views weren't a success. Like, both of them.
Look what you did, you little jerk. It's like, I'm sorry. I just wanted to retire. I was really bad, my bad. But I don't know. Like you say, I don't think, outside of Ward and Canelo fights, was there really a great deal else?
You had the Roman Gonzalez experiment because that was really cheap. Obviously those guys didn't have high purse rates. The production quality wasn't really high, so the bottom line was low. But like you said, that really isn't a thing that's driving subscribers. That isn't a thing that's going to drive interest. Is Roman Gonzalez and the super flyweights.
And to pin maybe some of your financial and business hopes around Andre Ward, I'm not, people are who they are and how they are, and that's fine. But I don't see Ward as like you know, obviously a fantastic boxer, but he's not like a star personality or, you know.
But see, it was funny because I remember back in the day, because I just started working in the industry right before Ward Kovalev. There was a legitimate thought out there that Ward could be a star, which is crazy. I know it's crazy. I never thought that, but there was a segment of the boxing community that thought, yeah, Ward could pull it off. It was post Super 6. It was post all this. It was his comeback. People thought, yeah, him back with HBO, Rock Nation, the Jay-Z connection, because remember, that was new. We thought that could actually end up being something, was the Rock Nation and the Jay-Z signing of Andre Ward and that connection. Obviously, that failed completely. But there was a legitimate thought in the industry, right or wrong, that Ward could be something in terms of stardom. Obviously, it turned out to be wrong.
Yeah. Boxing, huh?
Yeah. I mean, all those people on their executive boards with all their numbers, analytics, they don't get it right sometimes. It happens.
No, just because you haven't lost since you were 13 years old, it doesn't make you, you know, people wanting to pay to watch it don't make you want to, you know.
I mean, Terrence Crawford has the same sort of situation. Like, they thought he could be a pay-per-view star. He was doing really good ratings on HBO, like really good ratings. On top of that, he was selling out Omaha, Nebraska, 13,000. Like, that was, like, Bob and HBO were all thinking at the time, oh, Terrence Crawford could be our next Timothy Bradley sort of star. And he has not turned out to be that yet. And
but look at the division he's in now. So maybe I think there's more of a legitimate chance of maybe that happening. You know, and we're going to have to see, is there going to be a ESPN pay-per-view? I know Bob's talked about it, and it's maybe going to be mentioned, you know. So there's only either Loma or Crawford that are going to pull off an ESPN pay-per-view, I'd imagine, at the moment, you know, barring any other signings. You know, I think they're Bob's two, you know, stars on his platform. So maybe now he's in at 147, but again, it's going to depend on a dance partner. Who was his previous pay-per-view with in Dongo?
No, Victor Postal.
Oh, Postal, sorry, yeah. It's Victor Postal. I just, you know what I mean? So
the level of scoff you just put out to the
Postal.
Postal.
You know, so to me, pay-per-view star, you know, and what was that, at 140 at the time? So
135.
No,
sorry, 140. My bad.
Yeah.
Matt
stats.
You
know, Matt stats on how many US pay-per-view stars at 140 in the 140 division.
There's been 0.
Right. So, you know, pay-per-views are generally either welterweight, middleweight, or heavyweight, pretty much, I would say. So,
agreed. A couple quick comments. Sorry, a couple quick comments in the chat that I think are just really good points. Clay in the chat saying HBO didn't move with the crowd when it came to the digital wave. Absolutely true. The fact that we can't stream like live HBO like content is just insane. Like how difficult that is. Juan David Hernandez saying Ward couldn't sell seats in his hometown. Mistake using him as a foundation to HBO boxing. Agree with that. Sample King saying HBO failed due to their lack of promotion and biased views. I'm not going to lay it too much on the biased views. I don't think, again, that played as much of a factor as maybe some people think. The lack of promotion, though, that is major. Their marketing budget for HBO boxing must have been tiny. Showtime boxing has at least it appears to be a far bigger marketing budget in the last 10 years than HBO, and that's just absurd. But yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to really cut you off there, Rob.
That's right, I've forgotten completely what I was saying.
Shit happens.
But yeah, quickly on the card was Shields, who got another obviously easy win. Who else was on?
We really don't need to talk about it. Cecilia Brækhus, Juan Francisco Estrada, Clarissa Shields, all picked up easy, dominant wins. It was pretty boring to watch. So
I just want to bring up a comment Midi made about, because Clarissa Shields gave her opponent mad props for going the distance with her, and Midi made the point that she's like knocked 2 people out in a professional. It's not like I don't know, the way she talks like she's this supreme KO artist, and yeah. I like Shields, but I don't know. She's just giving out props for people going the distance with her, and that's what people seem to do.
Well, it's only from like a PR perspective. Like somebody must be telling like Chris Shields, stop telling like every one of your opponents you're gonna knock them out early, that they're bums, because when you go the distance, it might look a little bit bad in a way from a PR optics perspective. I see the text, Rob. My comments are reporting breaking news that apparently World Boxing Super Series are working behind the scenes to alleviate all their financial issues, whatever it may be, and get the tournament back on the road and back on schedule. I'll wait and see. Not that I believe Mike reporting is wrong, just that God knows what's really happening over there. Like I feel like we just still don't know the full extent of what is going on there. We really don't have much reporting on what is happening there, who is not being paid, how much they're not getting paid. You know, there's just a lot that is unknown with that situation. We just need more information, basically. But
fingers crossed it does get resolved.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Tournament going on, so.
Yes. Hopefully we get more information from it. But let's move on to the news of the day with that breaking news. Let's get to this shit, because I want to get into this. This is funny. Eddie Hearn, man, saying the Wilder Fury pay-per-view number is terrible. Absolutely terrible. And let me read the quote. Let me get the dramatic music out and all that fun shit. Yes, it's dramatic reading time by Matty Be Good. Rob, I'm so glad they can't see what you just did right there. Thank God it was off screen. God, don't ever do that again. That was creepy. Eddie Hearn to the Independent, and by way of boxing scene, how I'm getting these quotes, saying it's now easier to make the Wilder fight versus other circumstances. If Wilder would have won devastatingly, he would have been a fucking nightmare. Everyone thought he lost, so he drew. And although his stock has gone up because he is well known, it's not like he was this phenomenon. To do 300,000 buys is terrible. Absolutely terrible. 300,000 is absolutely abysmal. Dylan White against Joseph Parker did more than 300,000 buys in England. I mean, we're talking about across the U.S. You can't say it's good. Canelo and Golovkin had just done 1.2 million, and they're middleweights. Rob, do you want me to address the buffoonery with all this, the bullshit here?
I think Frank Warren's got it.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says?
Thank you. Thank you for that. That was great timing. Quickly, I just want to address this because I know there are going to be a few people that are just ignorant and uneducated enough and don't know the information and think that that is such a great point that Eddie just made. I hope everyone listening right now realizes that U.S. pay-per-view costs 3 times as much as UK pay-per-views. So Dylan White pay-per-view made $8 million. Wilder Fury made 3 times as much.
That's 24.
Which is, thank you for the quick maths. Quick maths, thank you. I knew you were about to say it, you fucking bastard. So I just want to put that out there, okay, table it now. Rob, if you want to address the greatest promoter in the game, your second cousin, twice removed.
Look, Eddie likes to either crank people up a bit or, I don't know, get under the skin, have a little poke here and there or whatever. Just, he likes to ruffle the feathers, I guess. I don't know if he's coming at the point or the stand of they build this as, the biggest heavyweight fight on American soil for 25 years, and it was to determine the #1 heavyweight on the planet. Whether he's trying to say, but look how big America is compared to the UK. So, and I don't know whether, again, that he's trying to say, if you weren't ridiculously priced at $75, maybe 10 million people wouldn't have illegally streamed it, or there were 10 million streams or whatever. So
I actually agree with those points in some fashion, right? But he's not.
I think they are valid. I think they are valid points, but
he's not making that point.
He's not. No, he's just saying it's shit. You done a shit job and whatever. So And he's obviously trying to knock down whatever they think Wilder's going to come after, you know, in terms of negotiations. If he's like looking to make the fight or whatever, he's trying to, you know, piss on their bonfire and say, look, you haven't massively boosted your profile. You only done 300. You know, he done that interview where he said, if it does 300, it'll be 70-30. If he does 400, 500,000, it'll be 60-40 Joshua. If he does 1 million, it'll be 50-50, you know? So, you know, he's obviously said, look, they've done the 300. So guess what? 70-30 or, you know what I mean? So it's just, you know, Eddie being Eddie. I don't know if, you know, like
It's
I say,
trolling.
I linked him in if he wants to call in.
Look, here's the thing with Eddie. Eddie has, and he's done this for a while now, and I think people are finally realizing it. He's doing what every great promoter does. He trolls the fuck out of the competition and the fans.
Yeah.
He makes them upset. He makes them feel a certain way about whatever it is, whether they want to root for him or disagree with him. He is drawing that reaction, that very distinct reaction from the reader, the listener, whatever it may be, whatever form of media he is on, right? And clearly, he knows that this is a lie. Like, he knows that comparing these two pay-per-view buy rates like they're equal is just a flat-out lie. It's not even disingenuous. It is just a lie. And on top of that, he knows that Wilder is a draw. He says in the quote above, he is well known. Like, Eddie knows on some level that Wilder deserves more than that 30% split. But he also knows how to piss off Wilder, how to piss off his fans, how to piss off Lou DiBella and Al Heyman by saying this. When he knows it's a lie, everyone knows it's a lie. When Wilder and everyone in his team reads this, they know it's a lie, and they're going to say, Eddie knows it's a lie, and they're going to get upset because of that. And that is the exact reason he said this. And, I mean, obviously, I have an issue with it because it makes my job harder because I have to explain to idiots common math, quick math, but hopefully, I think, again, most people realize what Eddie is. He's another Bob Arum. He's another Frank Warren, even. He is just a troll. He's a living embodiment of what Twitter is in its best form, which is fine. That's his job. He's paid to drive up interest for his fighter, to drive up the bargaining power and leverage power of his fighter and of his brand.
And look, you know, Matt, you see numbers on YouTubes and stuff like that. Eddie Hearn does good numbers. He on videos, interviews, everyone, whether they want to go, what's this fucker saying now? Or what, go Eddie. Yeah, take the piss out of Wilder or whatever. He does numbers, people tune in, and he at times, because we don't hear a lot from Joshua, he can be very, just doing his own thing, not really interested in the shit talk, the back and forth or whatever. So it's like Eddie's doing the promotional side and trying to make this fight bigger and bigger. If, we're going to get it next maybe or not, or whenever it happens, everything along the way is just either pissing off the Americans or making the UK go, yeah, it's all just stirring the pot, pissing, like you say, pissing people off. Mm-hmm. But there's interest there because he does good numbers. People want to hear what the mouthy British guy, good old Eddie Hearns, as he is over there.
Well, I've said this, he's a young Bob Arum. He's a 40-year-old Bob Arum. When Bob Arum was in his prime with Muhammad Ali back in 1960, okay, he was like Eddie. You go back and watch old press conferences of Bob Arum and old interviews of Bob Arum. He was just like this. He trolled everyone. He pissed off everyone. And why? Because it drove up interest.
He still does.
And he does it obviously at a now crepit age of 89 years old, 90. God knows.
Doddery, slower version, but he's still got it. He's still, is Al Heyman even real? Is he a real?
Yeah. He still has the couple one-liners here and there. Frank Warren still has it. Speaking of Frank Warren, we can get to it right now because there's not much to say about what Eddie said other than it's a flat-out lie, and of course he's gonna lie. It's his fucking job. Shout out to Frank Warren, another guy just doing his job, saying that the rematch with Wilder and Fury will now be on April 13th, which obviously is the same date as AJ's proposed Wembley fight. I'll be honest, when I started to think about it more, the less I thought it was 100% of a troll job. Like, there is a possibility that this could make sense. And hear me out. I know it might be crazy, because obviously you're going to probably double up on pay-per-view in the UK on the same day. You won't have that happen in the US, obviously, because AJ would be on the zone, right? So you won't have that factor. So that is really the only holdup with my theory. So I'm going to at least put that caveat out there that is a legitimate holdup as to why it probably is still a troll job and still not likely to happen. But all signs point to the fight still being in the UK. Being in the US, being Wilder versus Fury. Wilder coming out recently and saying that he wants the fight to be at the Barclays Center, which I think would be an awesome move. I think it makes a ton of sense.
I would travel for that one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. And plus, New York is fun. New York's fun. But, digressing, we've had 2 big cards on the same day, one in the US, one in the UK before, and we know they don't overlap. Usually the UK show would be done around 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, maybe 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Pay-per-view card for a US fight doesn't really start till 7 p.m., maybe 6 p.m., so there really isn't that overlap. And 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. So it's completely feasible and logical actually to have all the heavyweights that matter fighting on the same day in different countries where they don't conflict and they're not competing with each other. Again, obviously, that would mean still the UK audience would pay for 2 pay-per-views in the same day. That's probably why I don't think it happens. But other than that, I can see why you would want that to be the date of the rematch.
Yeah, I mean, see, the thing is, we've already got this happening, and Frampton, Warrington, and White Chisora are on the same day, 2 pay-per-views on the same day over here on the 22nd of December.
Never mind then. It's completely feasible now. All right, the rematch could happen Barclays April 13th now. I forgot about that. I forgot about BT Sports not giving a fuck about losing pay-per-view buys to White Chisora. I forgot about that.
Well, obviously Warren, when that all happened, had a lot to say. I would never do this to the UK boxing fan. I would never do, Eddie's come in and this, that, and the other, going up against, you're taking money from the fighters, out of their pockets, blah, 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 blah. And then sits there today with IFL and says, April 13th. No, when does Joshua fight? Is it April? And I think Coogan was like April 13th. He said, yeah, that's the date we're looking for the rematch with. So whether he's just trolling, joking, or whether there is an element, because I think obviously if we're getting Wilder Fury rematch, people are not going to be that excited for whoever Joshua's fighting. So if there is a choice, and it's, because Warren has said we want the fight in the UK ideally, because especially with the treatment he got by the judges over in America, so we want it in the UK. So if it is somehow magically lands in the UK, and we got Joshua at Wembley and maybe Wilder Fury at Old Trafford in Manchester, and the British fans literally have a choice, I can see a lot wanting to tune into Fury rather than the Joshua fight if he's up against, whoever it's going to be, like White or whatever. So would it be a smart move? I don't know. Or is Joshua really that, selling juggernaut that he's been? But I think there's, public perception starting to really come into play now as far as Joshua needs to fight one of Fury or Wilder.
Absolutely.
And, I don't know if you want to read out the other text message there I sent Matt with some news. Eddie Hearn's obviously been on TalkSport, so I sadly don't think he's been tuned in.
Read it. I don't have it up.
Okay. He's on TalkSport, and he said, I don't know Tyson Fury's contractual situation. He messaged me the other day to talk about the fight, meaning the AJ fight. The quickest way to make the fight for Fury against Joshua is to call me. Me and AJ will come round, see Tyson, and get it done in 5 minutes. So, again, Eddie's throwing it out there, but he has been saying in the media he actually did speak to Tyson, not just a couple of days ago or whatever. So this is going to be really interesting because we had all the news of the WBC have sanctioned the fight. Eddie Hearn was quite adamant to say it's not been ordered, it's been sanctioned. Whereas today's Frank Warren interview on IFL was saying, I think it was specifically said to Warren, like, and obviously the WBC have sanctioned the fight, and he went, "You mean ordered?" He went, "Well, no, it's the wording said sanctioned." He said, "No, they've ordered it." And he said, "So what would if Wilder wouldn't take the fight, he would be stripped of the belt?" He said he'd be in a tricky situation. So I don't know where we quite stand on that, but obviously this has just been great for the heavyweight division, and at some point these guys are going to fight each other, like we said on the last show, multiple times even. And because obviously we've got Ortiz getting that bit older. Obviously we've got the Dillian White coming through. We've got potentially down the line like the Joe Joyce, who needs to move quickly if he's going to make any kind of bid for a world title, because he's obviously coming on in age as well. So it's good, but I don't know. I think whether Eddie's going to throw a spanner in the works and throw in a really good offer to either one of these guys. I think they've stated they want Wilder because he's got the belt, but if he wants to go and we can try and make the Fury fight. So it's going to be interesting few months, I think, building up.
I still think it's pretty obvious what happened, but I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, I've been wrong before. Would not be the first time. Would not be the last. That's for damn sure. Last topic we're going to bring up today, and then head out to callers again, 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. If you're international, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get a free international permanent call-in link. Because basically, Rob, I really don't disagree with anything you just said. Like, everything you just said lines up, and I understand how, the theories are out there. But I still think we're going to get what we kind of know we're going to get, Wilder-Fury rematch, whenever it does happen, whether it's April 13th or whatever day, wherever it's at, whether it's Old Trafford or the Barclays Center or Vegas. I think we're getting the rematch. And with AJ, that is the one where there is some debate. I think maybe a big baby could pull out of nowhere and be an option. Usyk seems to be less and less likely like an option, and I'm happy about that. Dennis Lebedev has come out and said that he's going to really enforce his mandatory status for Usyk, and that'd be his farewell fight. So hopefully that's what happens, and we don't get an AJ Usyk fight right now. That just makes no sense. But digressing, last topic of the day, and then going to callers. Wilder's going to add some weight for the Fury rematch. Targets 245 pounds. I'm not a big fan of this. I'm going to be honest. This is roughly 18, 20 pounds more than his highest weight. I think his highest weight was 227 against Molina. So again, roughly around 20 more pounds than he's ever weighed at the highest he's weighed, I should say. His entire game is predicated on being a very fast twitch, great timing, right-hand counter, knockout artist. His entire game is that. I'm going to try to time you with this lightning-fast right hand. To add a bunch of weight potentially could slow him down. I'm worried about that. Rob, what are your thoughts about this?
I think Fury getting up in the 12th round has just completely spooked him, and I think he's thinking that. No, I just feel like he think if I've got more bulk behind it, it will actually finish him off. I don't know. He came in apparently at 209 on fight night, weighed in at 212, but it was actually 209 on fight night. Honestly, I thought when there were rumors roughly what Fury was going to weigh, I was thinking he was going to be sort of 220. But so when he come in at 212, I was like, yeah, maybe he's relying on speed, but I don't know. 245, that's a lot, and I don't think you can put that on healthy. Especially if they're looking at April. 220,
I'm okay with that. If you want to put on a little bit of weight, I'm okay because he was very light for this fight. If he wants to be 215, 220, 225 even, I'm semi okay with that. Even though I'm a little bit concerned about that much weight added to you in between fights in a rematch. That's going to change up how you fight. It just will. It's going to make you slower. It just will. But 40 pounds, like you said, that's a lot. That's a ton of weight. I just don't see it being A, realistic, and B, really helpful.
I just don't see how he does it healthy. He's either going to have sort of almost like the Fury, you know, not quite six pack, but you know, that little bit of loose skin, you know, hanging over the waistband, or
maybe legs. I mean, obviously he has very skinny legs. Maybe he can add a bunch of muscle there, but
yeah, don't skip leg day. Just
yeah, don't.
But
yeah, we can go to college, man. Fuck that.
Well, no, I'm just saying, or it's going to be, you know, big muscle mass. And I think I was talking about it with Midi, and he said, but then suddenly you're, you know, deemed as what AJ sort of deemed the robot, the bulky guy, and you know, you just suddenly he's not going to be this sort of fast, snappy sort of, you know, like say counterpuncher. He's going to be slightly more slow and what you know they like to call AJ robotic and whatever. I just don't see him dragging another 20, 30 pounds around, because I thought I don't know, I think there's rumors of he was sick and this, that, and the other, but I thought he drained out pretty quick in the fight with Fury. I don't think he was in great shape at all. He seemed to, obviously, we know Fury made him miss a lot, and you know that takes it out of you when you're missing a lot, and he's putting everything into this swinging right hand. But I thought at times he looked spent, and I think he had to work in little bursts when he could, you know.
Quickly, main event Mark saying bulking up his legs never a bad idea. True, unless you're trying to bulk up 40 pounds on your legs, which is a very bad idea, because imagine how slow he's going to be in terms of footwork. Like, it's, again, like, don't skip leg day, add some more weight, but don't go overboard. There's no need to really change too much of what Wilder did. Let's not act like he wasn't close in that fight. Like, he knocked him down twice. Like, it was like he may have been outboxed in majority of the rounds, but that's something that you can change in terms of technique and in training and in drilling. That has really nothing to do with your weight, right? Like, if he adds 20 pounds, doesn't make him a better boxer. Like, that's like the logic behind that, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. Go do more pad work. You know, go do more targeted sparring. You know, go do something that's different than your usual game. Go get another trainer in the corner, something. But again, 40 pounds isn't going to make you all of a sudden a better boxer than Tyson Fury.
No, it's definitely not.
Anyways, we're going to go out to Gary in Dallas again. Call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. If you are international, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get a free international permanent call-in link. Gary in Dallas, how you doing?
What's up, fellas?
Gary, get off speakerphone.
Oh. Is that better?
That's a lot better, thank you.
First of all, I have to correct you on a few things. First, you and Rob said there were no 140-pound pay-per-view stars. Julio Cesar Chavez was a 140-pound pay-per-view star, and so was Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao fought Ricky Hatton and Oscar De La Hoya at 140 pounds.
Thank you.
So that's just off the top of my head.
But
Gatti Mayweather.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Gatti Mayweather was not 140 pounds, 147 pounds. Please get that correct.
It was 140.
No, it wasn't. It was 147 pounds. That was his first fight at 147 pounds.
I will bet you. What would you like to bet? I'm not a betting man, but I know this because Gatti's my all-time favorite fighter, and my son is named Gatti. So I'll bet you whatever you want. What would you like to bet the fight was at 140?
I don't know. What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet, Gary?
I'm not a betting man.
Me neither.
I don't gamble anymore, but it's not really a bet. So I just feel like, how much do you want to pay me to know the answer to this question?
Gary, how about this? If you're right, I will send you a free T-shirt.
All right. What do you? Okay. And
I'm looking up right now.
I will send I'll send you I will up my ante on my Patreon donation. How about that?
Perfect. I love it. I'm pulling it up right now. Shout out to Box Rec.
Fucking right, Matt.
Oh, hold on, man. I don't want to send out a free shirt, man. I'm pretty. I need more of them. Hold up. God damn it. So Gary, send me your address, and I'll send you that free shirt.
My son is named Gatti. You think I was wrong about this?
Hey, Gary, you're an older gentleman. You're an older gentleman. You can get shit wrong. Damn.
I'm 35. I'm not like Rob's age. I'm not forgetting things already.
That's so good. Okay.
And if you don't have any shirts, don't go crazy. Whenever you have it, I do want one anyway. Send it out.
I have shirts. I have shirts.
Don't rush it.
Send me your size. Send me a message on Patreon. Send me your address and your size, and I'll get that to you, man.
I've got some TBV.
Don't send me a medium like I'm still 16, like nested. Like I just sent me when I was in high school. But yeah.
Okay.
And then you said that Kell Brook. I don't know what. Kell Brook just beat up a middleweight. You don't think that he can beat any of the top 5 welterweights?
No.
Okay, so let's start here. Give me currently your top 5 welterweights.
So obviously
Crawford, Spence, and let's go from there. Yeah.
Crawford, Spence, Thurman, Porter, Danny. Top 5.
Okay, so you're putting Thurman in there even though he's not active?
Well, Thurman's good. I mean, he is going to be active. That's why I'll give Thurman. Like, he's about to fight Jose Lopez.
I will believe Keith Thurman is fighting again when the bell rings. Not a second before that. He was
Gary, he was at a press conference, man. Like, your Keith Thurman hate has to end.
He was at a press conference last year saying he was fighting again.
No, he wasn't.
Last year, he was at the Showtime PBC press conference. He absolutely was.
You mean that big one they had last year? He wasn't at that one.
Yeah, yes, he was. He absolutely was. I have pictures of him holding both his belts because he doesn't have one.
Did they just not have his opponent there?
WBA belt, he didn't. No, he didn't have an opponent, but he had a set date.
Okay.
It was May 5th at the Barclays.
Okay.
So he's done this before, but okay. Keith Thurman, and you had Porter at 4 and Garcia at 5.
Yeah, sure.
So Pacquiao is on your list. So okay, you got Garcia.
Pacquiao's 6.
Okay,
you know,
fine.
Pacquiao could be 6. You know.
Okay. Brook already beat Porter and beat him convincingly. So it's like, yeah, you think he's that much worse over? Like, how good? Here's my point. Because sometimes you fight to your level of your competition. How good did Porter look to you when he fought Granados?
Porter looked good against Granados, in my opinion.
Did you really think so?
Yeah, I thought he looked fine against Granados. I think people expected him to demolish Granados, and I think people underestimate how good Granados is. Like, Granados could beat Danny Garcia. Granados is one of those guys who could play spoiler. He's that durable. He's that game, in my opinion.
I think. Okay, I thought Porter.
Because I thought, for example, Gary, I thought Granados beat Adrian Broner.
Yeah, I get it, but yeah.
I agree with you, Gary. I don't think Porter looked that impressive at Granados.
Okay, how good did Danny Garcia look against Brandon Rios until he learned that huge right hand? He was losing rounds to Brandon Rios. I mean, sometimes you fight to the level of your competition. That was my point. I wouldn't write off Kell Brook when he just outclassed and won basically every round against the middleweight. I wouldn't write him off based on that performance, is what I'm saying.
I wouldn't call that an outclassing performance, Gary. Kell Brook was getting touched up.
Any round? I would. He got hit too much.
Go on, Gary.
Brook got hit too much. I totally agree with that. 100% he got hit too much. But I would say, like, Danny Garcia got hit way too much against Brandon Rios. Right? It's like, yeah. Like, at no point did you ever think that Brook wasn't in 100% control of that fight.
I disagree with that a little bit. On top of that, I would say, yeah, Danny lost maybe a couple of the early rounds, and even that I would say is a little bit of a stretch against Brandon Rios. But in the 5th round, he knocked him out with a single punch and out cold. So it doesn't matter.
He did, but he was fighting a former lightweight champion of the world, and Brook was fighting a middleweight. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but again, a middleweight of no note. Who has Zerafa beat? Can you name me one guy?
Who he lost to.
No. Can you name me anyone he's fought other than Peter Quillen?
All the time. No, I mean, I'm sure if we looked it up, there'd be more names. Brian Rose, did he fight him? I think. I don't know. Maybe. I can't think of any at the top of my head.
Maybe Brian Rose. But my point is, like, Brandon Rios, even though he was a much shot version of himself, still a far better fighter than Zerafa. Still a far and away a better fighter than Michael Zerafa. On top of that, Kell Brook getting touched up by Michael Zerafa does not make me think that he's not going to get touched up way more with a lot more punishing shots by a Sean Porter in a rematch. You act like Sean Porter is not significantly a better fighter since that rematch, and Kell Brook is not significantly a lesser fighter since the rematch.
I don't think Porter is a better fighter. I think he's the same. I mean, what do you think Porter changed? I mean, Porter is still the bulldog, come forward, one-dimensional. And I like Porter. This nigga's like I'm hating on him, but Porter is what he is. Like, what do you think he's added to his repertoire at 30 years old? Or how old he is now? That he didn't have.
I think his jab is significantly better. His sense of distance is far better. His ability to not smother his shots is far better than what it used to be. Like, look at the Danny fight. Like, he didn't smother really himself at all in that fight. He was at mid-range, boxing and mid-combination.
But he did in the Granados fight and in the Berto fight. He did like, all those things you just mentioned.
Yes.
Happened in the rest of the fight. I agree. He fought the best fight I've ever seen him fight against that level of opponent in the Garcia fight. For sure. He fought better in that fight.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Gary. Didn't he break a hand in the Granados fight?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying he did. I don't know.
I could be wrong about that, but I think he got an injury in that fight.
I think he did. Yeah, I think you're right, Matt.
Yeah. But Gary, to sort of bring it back to Kell Brook, do you think he beats? Do you think he's a favorite against any of the top 5 I mentioned?
I mean, the favorite thing is just a gambler thing. I would favor him personally for sure over Danny Garcia. Probably again over Porter, and keep Thurman to toss up.
So you think Kell Brook like murders Amir Khan, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean I think Khan might win the first round on a chance to, but that'll be about it. You know, once he times him a little, but yeah, he destroys Amir Khan. I'm a Khan fan. Yeah, I don't think that's a great fight. Competitive, you know, from a competitive. I know Rob wants to see it, but I mean, as a competitive fight, I think Brook blows him out. I think the only 2 people who for sure beat him are Spence and Crawford. Thurman, really? I think, is 50-50, and I would save him against anyone else in the division. I didn't see him, but he looked unmotivated. He looked maybe undertrained, like he faded late in the fight, which is a problem, like especially a fight that you're dominating. But I thought he dominated with basic 1-2s, and he stalked him down with his jab. I mean, he looked pretty vintage Kell Brook to me.
Vintage Kell Brook, okay.
That might be how it. Yeah, no, I wouldn't say he looked vintage. In the first half, especially, he looked like the Kell Brook of Ultimate, fighting a middleweight.
Agree to disagree, Gary. I think Kell Brook is pretty close to being shot, in my opinion. I don't see him being. I don't see him being a relevant player at 147 or 154. Again,
154 is going to be brutal. Like I don't think he beats any. If you look at Kell Brook, right, and you look at Pete Thurman, do they look that much different in size to you?
Brook and Thurman, is that what you said?
Yeah. Do they look like do they look about the same size, roughly?
I probably. I've never been around Kell Brook. I've been around Keith Thurman. He's pretty big. I assume Kell Brook's probably around the same height. Maybe bigger muscles. Obviously, Kell Brook's a little more skinnier.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so what I'm saying is they keep saying Kell Brook is this big, massive welterweight, and he is a big welterweight, but that's kind of the size of the welterweight. Right? If you look at Spence is big, Keith is big, Porter's built differently, but Jeff Horn is big. Like, a lot of the welterweights now are that size. And then you go to 154, and you look at the monsters at 154. Like, Brook fades late. If you fade late and fight Jarrett Hurd, he's going to kill you. Like, I don't mean he's going to beat you up real bad. He's going to kill you, right? And Charlo is big, and Munguia is huge. He can't beat those guys because they're bigger than him. So he has to be able to make 47 if he wants to fight again for a world title. Because at 54, he'll just get manhandled. And it's the same thing with like Porter and Thurman. Like, they kind of have to stay at 47 because the guys at 54 are now monsters.
Yeah, I agree at that point.
Yeah, so if I were to make a bet, again, I'm not a betting man, I would bet that Kell Brook wins some major world title at 47, some version of a title, a world title.
So what do you mean by version?
Which includes the WBA regular. The WBA regular or one of the 4 major belts. One of those belts.
So no silver belt, again, no intercontinental, nothing like that. Like it has to be one the real 4 or the WBA regular.
Right.
Okay.
One of those belts. Yeah. No IBO, no silver continental belt, no British boxing championship belt. A world title. Like he'll be a world title holder again at 47.
I disagree with that, but can't wait to see it.
And then Loma. I thought Loma looked good, but I'm going to say the same thing about Loma. He should go back down to 130 because he's not a lightweight. Pedraza, who was a 130 pounder for most of his career, was drastically bigger. Linares, who comes up from 126 when they fought at 135, was way bigger. Like, I'm not here to knock Lomachenko, so Fugatti can, I don't want him to get offended. I thought he fought well. I thought he won almost all the rounds. I thought he won about 8 or 9 rounds, easy, possibly more. But those guys are bigger than he is, right? Like Pedraza and Linares were clearly the bigger man, and those aren't even massively big lightweights. So it's like I don't think he should stay there. I mean, he can because outside of Mikey, that division's not great, but he just doesn't. Those guys are too big for him there. For him to maximize his talent.
I understand that point. I'm not going to really argue against it other than, like, obviously, if I'm Loma and I'm dropping down in weight, I don't go to 130. I go to 126. Better names.
He can
bigger.
Bring the guys. There are better names at 26, but he can bring those names up. Those guys will come up.
Okay.
If he gets the strap at 130, those guys will come up and fight him at 30. The Gary Russell Jr.'s and Leo Santa Cruz, those guys.
Yeah. Well, even Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez still has a belt at 126. Like, that's a name that's all in the Top Rank stable. Like, that's a fight that could happen in the next couple of years,
Yeah. And at 35, outside of Mikey, which is the fight he wanted, which I think is why he moved up to 35, which to get that Mikey fight, isn't happening in the foreseeable future. So he could probably make 26. He could definitely make 30. It just seems better for him to fight those guys because it's more of a natural weight, and that's where the better fights are.
Yeah, I agree. Better divisions down there, better names. Especially if Mikey is not on the horizon.
Sample King in the chat says Kell Brook versus Jeff Horn. Loser leaves boxing forever.
Jeff Horn kicks Kell Brook's ass.
Come on. Do you really think Jeff Horn beats Kell Brook there?
In 2019, yes.
That's a makeable fight. Right? Like, you don't think Eddie's going to put him in the ring, right? Because he's now the mandatory for the WBA, which would be Jarrett Hurt. You don't think Eddie's going to put him in the ring for that fight, do you?
No.
Yeah, okay.
No. I think they're really going to push for the Amir Khan fight, and hopefully they get it. If they don't get that, Kell Brook's options are very limited.
That's my question.
If he doesn't get the Amir Khan fight, I would say you try to go down to 147. You have to go back down to that division because you're not going to be able to bring.
Back to 40.
What was that?
7. He has to go back to 47. I would agree. I think he's got to go back to 47 anyway, just because the 54 pounders are too big now. But so Eddie has like basically 2 choices. He could put him in there with Jesse Vargas, which is like okay, Brandon Rio, someone like that, or he's gonna have to look somewhere else and put him in the ring with someone who's not a matchroom fighter who he thinks he can beat. Jeff Horn, Maybe. I mean, I think the fight makes a little bit of sense. He has a name. He beat Pacquiao. I mean,
both are former champions.
I think it's a reasonable name if he doesn't make fight Khan next.
And that's a fun fight. Like, I don't think anyone really sees Brook versus Horn being a not a fun fight. I think the style matchup would actually be a pretty fun, interesting matchup.
What if Khan?
I would be.
Sorry, what if Khan does fight Crawford? That leaves Collazo, free.
Ooh, I like Collazo. I think Collazo beats Kell Brook as well.
How bad do you think Kell Brook is?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, do you think he would beat Broner at this point?
Oh, Kell Brook? Yeah, Kell Brook can beat Broner, man. Yeah. Come on, I'm not that crazy.
You take Collazo to beat Broner?
Oh yeah. Come on.
Okay, I think that's like an even money fight. How bad do you think?
But I'll put it this way. I'll put it this way.
Terrible.
I'll put it this way. All those guys, like that back half of like number 6 to number 15 at welterweight, are all kind of the same in my opinion. Like they're all interchangeable.
I agree with that. And the last thing I wanted to get onto was this Eddie Hearn thing with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. It seems like he wants to make that fight now, right?
Yes.
But, like, if you think that Deontay Wilder is a pay-per-view bust, why do you want to put your fighter in the ring? It won't make any money. You know what I'm saying? It's like, listen, Eddie, it can't be both ways. If you think he's a dud and no one will buy the fight, why do you want to put your guy in the ring with him?
Because he does know because he does know Wilder and Fury aren't duds and that they will be big money fights. He knows that, but he knows it's going to piss people off to say it.
He's just being an internet troll. Like, that's all he's doing. Like, he doesn't believe what he's saying for a minute. And, like, I like Joshua. I really do. I just hate Eddie Hearn, right? So, if I was Wilder, the way that I got treated in the last negotiation, I wouldn't take that fight for 50-50, and I still might not take it because I'm not working with you again. I'm a pay-per-view draw now. I can make money, maybe not as much money, but I can make plenty of money fighting other people. So I'm going to fight Fury again, and if I win, then I'm going to weigh my options. And if you don't offer me 50-50, I'm just going to go elsewhere because I'm not dealing with you guys.
Your tits. Have you been smoking something?
I forgot Rob was on group. Go ahead, defend Eddie Hearn.
Actually, no, I'll defend Eddie Hearn in a sense. I'll tap in here.
That's my boy.
Like Eddie's entire intention is to have people like you call in to shows like this and make that same point. Like that's exactly what Eddie wants. Eddie wants you to hate him but love Joshua. Like that's innately his job as a promoter. So I don't fault him for doing it like maybe you do, Gary, or others, to not make it specifically on you, Gary, just generalizing it more now. Eddie Hearn did exactly what AJ wants him to do, what I kind of want him to do, which is to piss people off. Contradict yourself. Be a promoter. Be a salesman. Go say, yeah, that shit didn't sell. My shit's better than yours. That's what he just did right here when he said White Chisora sold more. And even though we all know it didn't sell as much in terms of revenue, but he knows that. Wilder knows that. Everyone knows that.
In this market, right, we're $75, or I can try to stream it illegally. Do you think if they sold it for $25 or $50, that it would actually make more money because more people would buy it as opposed to going through the trouble of streaming it illegally?
Look, obviously we don't have like direct empirical evidence of that, but we do have examples of events that have done, let's say, very low in terms of per cost per buy, right? The Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson one, I think is a great example. Two guys that are relatively known, obviously, but it was only like a $10 pay-per-view to watch that golfing tournament, whatever the bullshit was. And they sold over 1 million pay-per-view buys. They had to refund it all because there was an error in the system. And so that's obviously a tragedy in a sense, but it can be done, I think. We need more evidence. We need more data to prove it. So we can go to a Steven Espinoza, like people like me, people in the media, can go to a Steven Espinoza, can go to the Peter Nelsons of the world, the Bob Arams, and say, look, you dropped the cost down to $20, $30, $40 instead of $75. you're gonna lead to, on average, X amount of more buys. We don't have that yet. We don't have that smoking gun yet, and we need it.
I wouldn't go to Peter Nelson.
Oh, we're not Peter Nelson anymore, but you know what I mean. R.I.P.
I'm thinking because ESPN was kind of the trendsetter with the app. I think they should try that because I think Crawford and Khan is going to bust badly as a pay-per-view. If they charge $25 for it, ESPN's got plenty of money. If it busts a little bit, ESPN's not going to be outside of your building with a cup in their hand begging for change, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can afford to lose money on one. I think it would make sense that, okay, we're going to try Crawford versus Khan on pay-per-view for $25 or $40 to see how many more buys it generates. Because I think without that, if they do that in March, and it's in between the fight, the Garcia and Spence fight, and right before the rematch between Fury and Wilder, that is going to bomb badly. Like, it might bomb Postal bad, and that's embarrassing. So try it out for $25 and see what it does.
I agree. I think you definitely need to at least try to change up the paradigm a little bit, because not everyone can fit the old mid-2000s business model. That just doesn't exist anymore. The middle class pay-per-view star is gone. So why not experiment with the price? Why not experiment with the model a little bit? Yeah, I agree.
I just think to say they can afford to take a loss, I don't think people in charge of the purse strings will probably agree with you on that. They're not going to make a loss as far as making an experiment.
Well, obviously we have it, like, there's a term called loss leader, right? Like Canelo is DAZN's loss leader, right? They're not making their money back with Canelo anytime soon. They just aren't, right? But they know having him there is going to generate interest, going to generate publicity, going to generate a lot of stuff outside of pure revenue in dollars, that he is a loss leader. They're going to make sure they have him regardless.
But they've got Canelo to get subscribers.
I understand that's the loss leader, because there's no way their current model can support what Canelo is paying. They're obviously paying out of pocket for that right now.
Yeah, but my point is they've got Crawford, who's on an app that people are paying for, and then they're going to ask for people to pay more again to watch the same guy on a pay-per-view.
I think you don't understand my point yet, because I haven't really finished it.
I just wanted to talk.
I know you did. Crawford Khan, that event is a loss leader. They probably are not going to make their money back with that event. But what they do is generate interest, both globally, online, etc. Why? Because Khan generates interest globally, online, whatever it may be. And even though they're going to overpay him for that, they're going to overpay Crawford for that, they know it's a loss leader long term to try to invest into Crawford. That's what the thought process would be for an ESPN, knowing, hey, we're not going to make our money back potentially with this fight, but later down the road, because he beat Amir Khan, we might get our money back. That's what the hope is. Same with DAZN and Canelo. Gary, sorry, we kind of hijacked your call.
No, well put, Matt. I mean, that was kind of, my thought, but just really elaborated on. But that's really all I got.
Well, thank you for your call, Gary. Always appreciate it, man. I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we will not be doing a boxing show. We'll be doing an MMA show. I am sorry, Rob. You get the day off.
Boo.
Boo. Boo. But anyways, let me just play the outro and we can get our fucking asses out of here. I'm hungry.
Quick thing, Eddie Hearn has revealed that Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk, and Gerald Miller will all be ringside for the Dillian White-Derek Chisora fight. So make of that what you will.
Okay.
People.
Yes, agree. But I am Matt, the Hipster Hunter. Obviously, you've been another edition of Mixed Combat Radio. Hashtag MCRNet right now. Goddamn. Hope you enjoyed the show. Smash the like button, share the show, subscribe, listen on podcasts. Drop that 5-star review. If you don't, drop a 1 star. Whatever you do, write a comment. Write an actual review. Don't just leave the star rating and just go off with your day. Actually write a review, because I read that shit, and it's always hilarious, especially the 1 stars. I'll be honest. I don't want 1 star reviews, but they are funny every single time, so I kind of get giddy for them. I know. Sick enjoyment. I know. I'm a degenerate. I am. Hope you guys enjoyed the fights. Shut up, Rob. It's my outro. I hope you guys enjoyed the fights. Hope you guys enjoyed all the news of the day. Like I said, be back tomorrow. Gonna review all of UFC 231, a bunch of UFC news and MMA news and more combat sports news outside of boxing, all that good stuff. Find me at Matt Hunter MCR, all platforms. Peace. Rob?
You're also an awful salesman telling people to do 1 stars because you find them funny. But
they are funny.
My intro. No, I'm joking. Yeah, please, everybody, like Matt said, share the show, hit that thumbs up. Just make people aware of the channel. Hopefully we'll have its original name back, or we'll come up with a new one. Yeah. But we'll see. But again, thank you for everybody. I've had some nice comments, for jumping over, joining up with Matt. And until the next one.
Peace.
Peace.